So first of all, thanks all for coming. Really cool to see all these people. I'm curious, who's not Dutch right here? Let's just raise your hand if you're not Dutch. Okay, let's do it in English then. So, the thing is, I saw a lot of masterclasses from artists, like explaining their old tracks that are already done and mixed and mastered. But I get a lot of questions like, how do you start a track? What's the process of your tracks? How's your workflow? So I thought it was cool to do like a track from scratch. So I'll explain my tricks. Meanwhile, in the track, do some mix and mastering tips. And if you guys have any questions, just ask them and I will explain everything you want. So to begin, I had these chords a while ago. And I had this on my laptop and I was like, yeah, let's do something with this at Dancefair. And I'm going to work it out as far as I can. And if I'm stuck, we're going to do some questions. I'm going to show you some other projects. And we'll see how far we can get. So I'll just start, and if you have any questions, just ask them. So this for the chords. So let me know if is this all clear, the sound? Perfect. So I had the idea that I can add a little dreamy vibe with some cool vocal effects. So I found this library on Contact a few days ago. I thought it was really cool. So maybe we can use that. Who from you guys are working in Logic? Then it's my boys. Anyone in Ableton? FL Studio? Okay. So yeah, I'm working in Logic for like 8 or 9 years now, and I never switched. But I think it doesn't matter. I'm not a guy that's like, yeah, you should work in Logic or you should work in Ableton. Whatever you're comfort with is what you should work with. So this is like a library from Contact. I can really recommend like using libraries from Contact because probably all of you guys know Splice, right? And okay, raise your hands if you know Splice and if you use Splice. So the thing is, with Splice, I really use it a lot, but most of the samples of Splice are like really overused, as you probably might have heard. So I think it's cool to get your samples from somewhere else. Like this is a really cool bank with like some vocal. Like it's really handy. You can set like these chords are in A minor, so you can just select like A minor and just play whatever you want. For like sample. So I'm just gonna try some stuff and see where it ends. I'm not a really big fan of these sounds, so I'm gonna search for another one. Might be cool. So I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger with some reverb that I really like. It's Ars Acoustics. I really recommend you guys getting it because it's like I use it like 90% of the time that I use reverb. I use this one, and this preset is like really fine for almost everything. So you guys can copy it later on if you want to. Getting some atmosphere, but still not good enough. Really cool. thing is, it's really handy because you can't go wrong. Like the samples are already in A minor, so whatever note you choose is like already fitting the chords if you have like a proper chord schedule. Yeah, maybe it's just cool to loop it. I think it's this is a real cool tool as well. You probably might know it, but it's a free plugin from Rcrds OTT, and I use it on almost every sound, and it's like a really easy way to like compress your sound. And I also use it on my master sometimes, just to make it a little bit more tight. Maybe we can add like a Reese bass under this, because like just the init is maybe a little bit too weak for only the bass. So I'm gonna load. Just copy the chord schema. Still not a really big fan of the vocal cuts, so I'm gonna try something different. If you guys have any questions, just ask them and I can answer them. Let's go. It's cool to combine those two vocals, but like do it like this. That's better. Maybe it's cool to add like a real vocal. Use this for just for the atmosphere, and then
but you're about to see.
Giving up on love, we're giving up on.
I think this one is on the right key. It's a pack that I really like. It's on Splice, so it's pretty much used in a lot of tracks. But if you edit it like the right way, then it might work. So it's in the right key. So in Logic this is a tool like Flex tool. It's like really simple. You just activate it and then you see it's like a little bit too long because it's like 120 BPM. So this is 126. So it needs to be shorter. It's like exactly 8 bars. So now it's perfectly.
Giving up on love, we're giving up on love. Giving up on love, we're giving up on.
Okay, so what I really like to do with vocals lately is like use format. I'm not sure if you guys are similar with that, but it's like pitching the vocal without changing the key. So it's getting lower or higher without changing the pitch. So this vocal is like quite high, but I think it's like cooler if you pitch it a little bit down. So I use this one for that. It's the Isotope Nectar, and it's like really easy to use. You just select the pitch, and here you can like change the shift. I think that one is cool. As you can hear, the sound is getting really mono. So what I do to make mono things stereo is the Isotope Imager. Because you can like just activate this, and then it takes the different multibands. Like the vocal is like mostly like around 1K till 20K. So this one is not important. This one, that's not important, the part. So. Giving up on love, we're giving up on love. We're giving up on love, we're giving up on love. So I might think that vocal can work. So we're gonna make it a little bit cooler with an EQ. Ah, man. Giving up on love, we're giving up on love. We're giving up on love, we're giving up on love. And it's like really dry, so what I like to do is like add a delay, and I mostly use this delay from Waves.
our love. We're giving up on, giving up on love. Giving up on, giving up on love. Our love. We're giving up on love. We're giving up on, giving up on, giving up.
And of course some reverb to make it bigger because it's like really dry right now. Also the same reverb as I used on the vocal cups. It's just the same preset and then play with the volume of the
Giving up on love, our love. We're giving up on love. We're giving up on love, our love. We're giving up on love.
might be weird. Okay, so let's add make a small build-up. This is like my own signature build-up that I created in the last couple of months. You might recognize it from other tracks. I use this a lot, and it's not really a big snare, but it's like more a snappy snare that it doesn't take too much space in the spectrum. So I think. Question. Yes, I have like my own sample bank. I find samples, sometimes I even cut samples, edit them and merge them together, and at the end you have your own sample bank. So it's like really handy also for your workflow to have your own sample bank, because if you always have to search for your samples and like search for new ones, it kind of kills your workflow. So if you have, this is like a complete build-up, like. It's like really easy to work, and that's, in my opinion, a good way to also create your own signature sound. Okay, so what a cool tool is for like use on your master chain is the endless smile from Dada Life. It's like a really easy trick to make your build-up a little bit bigger because it adds some reverb, it cuts away some low frequencies. So I'm going to show you what it's going to do. So. That's like really heavy, but to do it like precisely on your master, it can create a really cool effect. That's what I almost do in every track. So I can recommend like use that plugin on your master, and you can even do it on your own with like your own low cut and reverb if you like to. But it's like a fast way, and it works for me. So you create like an automation on your master, and just automate the intensity of the endless smile. Okay. Okay, so let's find a drum fill so we can start on a drop. Well, let's just use a simple one. because we don't have a lot of time. So I'm not mostly I'm searching for like hours for like this small details, but we don't have that time. So might work. So as you can see, this sample is like 128 BPM, but we're working in 126. So then I activate the flex mode, just turn it on, and then make sure it's like exactly on the grid. And now it's stretched to. I think I might have an idea for the drop. I'm not sure if it's gonna work, so don't laugh at the sounding shit, but just trying some things. So this is like a really fun way to work. It's like a kick loop that I already made sometimes, and it's just already looped. So I can just drag it in my project and don't have to copy and paste every kick now and then. So it's cool. So you might recognize this sample from my tracks. It's like a little signature thing that I like to use in all my tracks. It's like this synth step. It's funny because I found that step in Vengeance, and it's not really something special actually, but I EQ'd it a little bit, and it gives like a really good impact to your drop. So you might recognize the sound, or maybe not. So it's already in key, so let's just. It's a cool trick to use like reverb automation in your tracks. Like to have like if you have like really short samples and you want like fill the gap. I learned from a friend of mine that's like really cool to fill the gaps with reverb automation. So you have like you feel like the sample is digging in, and I'm doing it with almost all my leads and samples in my drops if you listen carefully. Because if I wouldn't do that, like it has like way less drive than it has right now. So I think this maybe a little bit more. Okay, that's cool. I think I need a clap as well, of course. That's a clap loop. Okay, that one might work. Okay, so let's find a lead for the drop. I think I'm gonna use my Fire lead right now that I used in my track Fire together with Magnificence. It's like cool for you guys to see, I think, how I process that lead. You might recognize it. As you can see, there's a lot on the chain, but it's like 80% EQing because it has some really ugly frequencies in it. I can show you the preset without. So I started with an OTT. Just gives a little extra edge. Then a compression. It just compresses the lead. It's just taking it the peaks out and pushes it a little bit more, so it's like a straight line instead of since it's like peaking and stuff. And it's cool to use this preset, Pump Me to the Radio, that I'm using a lot, so I can recommend that. Saturn is like a saturation plugin that I can recommend use on a lot of your sounds. If your sounds are a little bit too small or miss some frequencies, before you use an EQ, try to use this one, because it's like combining with an overdrive. And with EQ, you won't get some sounds that you can get with this. So if you boost, for example, the mid, it's already sounding like really full, because without, it's like really small, and now it's getting really big. As you can hear, there are like a lot of frequencies that are hurting your ears. So this is a cool plugin for adding some highs. It's from Waves, and just boost the 10K that you can select here. And this is the painful frequencies for your ears. It's a little bit better for your ears. So you just see it in the analyzer. Like if I... You see that this 2K and 5K is really harsh for your ears, so be careful with that. And if it's too much, just pull it down. It's another EQ. Not doing that much. Didn't do anything on this, but what's cool on SSL channel is that you can boost like 300 Hz really naturally. Like you can make sounds really full, because 300 Hz is really important for your sounds. Like if it's too thin, it probably needs some 300 Hz, and you can EQ that. But I can recommend doing it with this, because if you do it with an EQ, it's getting a little bit fake, because you are boosting like fake frequencies with an EQ. And this is exactly the same actually, but somehow with this plugin it's really naturally. And of course another EQ, not doing anything. And what's cool is a match EQ. If you have like a track that has a little bit incomparable lead, and your lead isn't really right there, just drag it in the match EQ, click on match, and it will tell you what frequencies you are missing and what frequencies are too much on your sounds. So, and if you do that, you can like apply it like this as much as you want. So you don't have to copy the lead or the EQ, but just for the little bit extra that you need. Okay, so just let's make it drop. Well. I use pitch bend a lot in my synths because it's like really static without any pitch bend. So try to use as lot as pitch bend to make it like movable, like it's starting to move. Like if you have straight notes, it's cool, but if the notes are like sliding and moving, it gives more energy. So try to experiment with that. You already hear the difference without the pitch bend. It's like a really big difference. Probably the same that again. Might be a cool melody, but missing some pitch bend. Okay, so this is cool for now because I see we don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna add a low bass to it, so it's getting somewhere to a drop. This is a bass I used in my track Stmpd on Revealed, and it's actually an 808 bass in Serum, and it's like different than just a sine, because an 808 is like a lot dirtier than a sine. So it's already really heavy. And what I did was just compression and overdrive. Not really a big fan of overdrive very lows, but it worked in this case. To give a little bit more edge. 3 equalizers. They're like not really doing special things. Also an equalizer, and then this time I used an LFO tool. Yeah, look, we're in A, so. Also, with bass notes, it's really cool to use pitch bend. It adds a lot of energy to it, especially when you pitch it down, the last part of the note. It's doing really. As you can hear, it's already a big difference with the first. So also in this one. And what adds a lot of energy to your drops is, of course, noise. And I always use this one somehow. It's sounding like the CO2 effect at festivals. It's like exactly the same. So it works for your drops. Because this has one step probably. A little bit. Okay, so if you guys have any question about this project, just ask them right now, because after this I'm going to switch to another project of mine. That's my latest release, my upcoming release. So if you guys any questions from this? Here. The sub bass in the beginning? In the break? This one? This one? Yeah, it's just an 808 in Serum. And just EQ it, put an overdrive on it, and there it is. Nothing really special actually. So I'm gonna save this. I might finish this, but I think it can be cool. But yeah, so the time is done now. So thank you all for coming, and I hope you learned something.